Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Love your children, guide them, and flog them too. That's the advice of a local pastor as he speaks passionately about addressing crime, particularly crime and violence perpetrated by young men. Violence has claimed the lives of 2 men so far this week. A shooting and stabbing ended fatally on Monday. The reality is both sobering and hurtful, according to Pastor Francis Aristide. He says a massive collective effort by all churches, police, and institutions, including the family, is overdue to help youth get on the right track.
Our young men going around killing one another, may it be drugs relationship, may it be alcohol, may it be sex, I don't care, but I think that something should be done about it. And let me emphasize, as a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ, I plead for ministers, men and women of the cross. Let us stand fast and get to, let's have a mechanism, a new structure of working that we can get to the young men, young women of St. Lucia.
Going forward, he says it is essential for families, parents in particular, to forge closer relationships with their children to help guide them appropriately when it comes to avoiding the pitfalls in life. He further states that the administering of physical punishment is an essential part of effective parenting. He strongly disagrees with arguments by child advocates that physically punishing children teaches them violence as an appropriate response.
One of the fundamental problems we have in St. Lucia, you find that we have a lot of fatherless children and motherless children. And that's a problem. That's one of the main problems. Because when a child is not being raised with both parents, you find it's training for one and the other one is free of charge. But secondly, is that it is imperative that we frog our children. You cannot spare the rod and spoil the child, because at the end of the day, the problem, the solution comes back to us.
Pastor Aristide was not done with the tough talk and came down hard on the police for what he believes is a lack of confidentiality and inadequate crime-fighting strategies.
When you have young men in Marchand, Bois-Cartel, Pavé, Mondidon, name it, wherever it may be, just going around shooting people, killing people, doing all this crime, it puts St. Lucia in the backbones. Now let me re-emphasize something. The police too. The police should do more. And it hurts me to say that some of us would give information to the police. And when we give information, the police went back and slack on us. Snitch on us.
Pastor Aristide says effectively addressing crime and violence is everyone's business. Following the recent announcement of the official resignation letter of Dr. Eubaldus Raymond from the Senate, outspoken Methodist minister Seth Ampadu, who had called for the nation to show a spirit of forgiveness toward Dr. Raymond, states that his position remains the same even after the resignation. Ampadu also stands in agreement with the decision by Dr. Raymond to remove himself from the high-ranking position of senator and minister.
The formal resignation of Dr. Eubaldus Raymond from the House of Senate has been met with approval from vocal Methodist minister Seth Ampadu. In a previously recorded broadcast of Hot 7 News, the minister put a special call out to members of society to show a level of forgiveness to the embattled Dr. Eubaldus Raymond. Now, with the resignation confirmed and effective Tuesday, 30th April, the Methodist minister says the right decision was made.
The whole country is calling for. So I think he has done the right thing, and the Prime Minister, he is the one to appoint and disappoint. So I think it is in the right direction, and we pray to God that God will give him, Mr. Raymond, the strength to cope. We need as a nation to pray for the family as well, because it is so sad, it's so disheartening, you know. And again, it's an example and warning to all leaders that leaders need to be very careful about how they conduct their lives in order not to come to that point.
Methodist minister Seth Ampadu himself has received heavy critique for his continued outspoken personality in regards to state matters. Nonetheless, he reaffirmed his commitment to being a strong and outspoken voice on issues, particularly social issues and matters of faith.
I am a theologian. I hold PhD in theology. I hold masters in theology. Theology is there to address social issues. So whatever that is going on in the nation, as a theologian, I have to design a theology to address that. If I always preach in the church, how many people come and listen? So I need to come out with my theological reflection so that it will benefit the entire nation. And again, if you are a human being, you should not be afraid of criticism. That is why a lot of people don't want to talk. I'm a religious leader. I'm not a politician, But some people, when you talk, they say, oh, you are talking too much, or you are doing politics. If you keep quiet, they are saying, where's the voice of the church? So what should we do?
Ampadu says criticism should not deter individuals from speaking out on matters that weigh heavy on their heart. He adds, with societal shifts, it is necessary that men of the cloth use as many platforms available for them to speak out on injustices and societal matters. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Solange Alfred.
Thank you very much, Solange. Senator Joachim Henry speaking out in defense of his Seventh-day Adventist faith in light of the ongoing water cooler topic of former Public Service Minister Dr. Ibaldis Raymond, who was also a member of the Senate and a member of the same creed as Joachim Henry.
The church is not silent. The church probably would not speak in the way that persons would want them to speak. The church is responsible to assist in rebuilding, in restoring people to the faith, and I think the issue of when we go wrong, the church do call and have personal discussions with people, but it is not a public thing that the church necessarily must come out at the whim and fancies of individuals to speak on any issue. The church do have the guiding principles by which they operate.
Senator Henry says we all fall short.
I think too often when other people do things, you do not hear Catholic did this. But if, for example, Joachim, you had a Seventh-day Adventist, if it is you as the Seventh-day Adventist, I do not think we should label the Seventh-day Adventist Church or any religion for that matter because of the actions of anybody.
But do you think it's because that they're out there, they're always out there and try to portray this, like Seventh Day is more out there than everybody?
Well, I understand that as well, similar to the Rastafarian. Of course, they dread the locks and they smoke the weed and then they carry the symbols of their religion. However, when somebody commits a crime, you do not say the Rasta did. You say the individual. When somebody do something that we're not happy with, we call out the person's name, but not necessarily highlight the person's faith, whether it's Catholic, whether it is Jehovah's Witness, whatever religion it is. So I think sometimes coming across, even on social media, I do feel for the faith that I'm part of, and I do not think it's always fair that my church be called out in that way.
That was Senator Joachim Henry. In other news, the Chief Executive Officer of the St. Lucia Hotel and Tourism Association is expressing concern over the possible fate of regional airline Liat. Norani Aziz says although the Prime Minister may be well informed on his decision to not lend financial support to the company, the possible fallout will undoubtedly have a major impact on the local industry. Rochelle Gonzalez reports.
With growing fears over the fate of troubled regional airline Liat, the St. Lucia Hotel and Tourism Association has chimed in to express their concerns over the impact that the possible closure of the company could have on the sector. Chief Executive Officer of the SLHDA, Nurani Aziz, told Hot 7 News that he is fully aware of the complexity of the situation at hand. Liat, he said, is a member of the SLHDA, and they have held private talks with the company in order to better understand the real issue at hand. Aziz said, whilst he does not feel comfortable to comment on the matter as yet, they are keeping a keen eye on the progression of the situation.
Through the discussion so far, however, we are very mindful of the critical role that Liat plays in regional transportation, primarily for St. Lucia, during the summer months when we have got a contraction in arrivals from our traditional northern markets. So we are also mindful that this is very key to us to us supporting or populating our summer events with consumers. So that is key to us. It's not the only mode of travel for visitors who come in for some of the summer festivals, but it's certainly an important one. The preliminary data that we have seem to suggest that the arrivals are very significant, and it is not something that we can treat lightly or rush to a decision on.
Aziz said, on the other hand, the association can understand the stance taken by the government. On a number of occasions, Prime Minister Alan Chasney made his position clear that he will not lend any financial help to the airline unless they make significant changes across the board. The PM also indicated that a fresh start, in the event that the airline closes its doors, would be welcomed. The SLHDA CEO said he respects the PM's stance. However, that does not take away from the impact that will surely be dealt to the tourism sector.
I'm sure the Prime Minister has access to a lot more information to have taken a position on that matter than I have right now, or the SLHDA has right now at its disposal. But, one can fully understand that in this global environment, businesses are called upon to show slate. I understand that certain governments extract taxes from the ticket that Liat sells. Can we call for greater transparency as to what is used, how these funds are being used, and how what kind of support is being given back and reinvested into Liat? Of course, that's a conversation we like to have as well. At what stage in their ability to be introduced to the market are new carriers right now, new companies? How do we incentivize that if that is the way we need to go? These are all concerns that members have shared with the association, and they are legitimate concerns.
Aziz said this is not the case of a mom and pop shop which can be closed and reopened whenever. This is an entity, he said, which private sectors have become very dependent upon, and so he does not have a full appreciation for the other options being discussed for the airline. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Rochelle Gonzalez.
Thank you, Rochelle. This is the Hot 7 Nightly News. Stay with us. There's much more coming up after the break.